Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines show. We're talking about crime in Baton Rouge. And it's serious, folks. We're very pleased to have on the show the Sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish, Sid Gautreaux. We have the Police Chief of the City of Baton Rouge, Dewayne White, and we have the District Attorney, Hillar Moore. I want you to understand that our crime rate per capita in Baton Rouge is higher than Los Angeles, New York, and even Chicago. It's serious. So we're going to talk to those gentlemen about what we need to do, what we're doing, and what else you can do to help us reduce crime. So join us on the next Legal Lines. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and we have a very special show today. We're going to talk to you about crime in Baton Rouge. We're very pleased to have on the show today Sid Gautreaux. He's the Sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish. Dewayne White, he is the Chief of the Baton Rouge City Police, and Hillar Moore, the DA of East Baton Rouge Parish. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure.
We've all had separate shows together and talked about crime, each in the specific areas that you deal with it. But I wanted us to educate the folks and give them the big picture and how, frankly, serious it is in terms of the effect that it's having on our state, and particularly our city and our families. So let's discuss for the folks what the problem is. I mean, the perception is crime's going up, and it's going up a lot. Is that right or wrong?
Well, from an inner city perspective, it is. It's going up. We see armed robberies, sexual assaults, violent crimes going up.
Murder rates higher than it was?
Yeah, right now we're standing at 44, not homicides, but they could be either negligent or justifiable. I think we have right at 39 homicides, I believe. So, and we're ahead of last year's pace, and that's disconcerting to me. But there is hope, and that hope is coming through new operations and a lot of innovative things that the sheriff and the DA and I have put together, along with the mayor president and the Metro Council.
Sheriff, I think folks may understand, but the bottom line is your jurisdiction, your power is over the entire parish of East Baton Rouge, but you really focus, because the chief of police focuses on the city, you focus on the areas that aren't within the city limits for the most part.
Historically, the sheriff's offices in every parish are primarily responsible for the unincorporated areas as far as law enforcement, but certainly the jurisdiction given to each sheriff is in the state constitution, and as such, that sheriff and his deputies have jurisdiction throughout the parish.
Are you seeing crime going up in the areas that you're focusing on?
Our primary focus in the unincorporated areas, most of our crime has decreased. We're seeing here lately an upturn in property crime, mainly vehicle burglaries and such. This year, we're just the same as Baton Rouge City. We have more homicides to date this year than we had last year, so that's very concerning to us. But Locke, it matters not, about jurisdiction. It doesn't matter to me what the shape of your badge is or the color of your uniform or whose jurisdiction starts or stops here or there. We're all in this together, and we're all working together to try to affect a positive change and to make the parish safer. I've kind of broken out of the mold, so to speak, in that we have gone inside the city.
I think it's cooperation like it's really never been between the city police and the sheriff's office.
That's exactly
We can all three
right.
attest to that.
That's exactly right. And as sheriff, as an elected official, I'm elected by all the people in the parish. So we're not going to turn our back on anybody or any citizen, and we're certainly going to work together, and we encourage working together with all entities, both local, state, and federal, and it's been good.
Hillar, you're on the litigation side. You're controlling the prosecution of the criminals and trying to get them off the streets, and you're doing it for the entire parish. What are you seeing in your world?
Well, they talk about crime and crime analysis and whether it's up or down. And I know they use FBI stats, but all we see cases that come in, and we see that the numbers are increasing. And unfortunately, the numbers of murders or bodies, the count is really, it's real and it's hard. There's nothing you can play with on the numbers, and
Right.
those are rising. But it's not the worst that we've ever seen in Baton Rouge number-wise for homicides. We've had much worse years, but it's increasing a little bit, but it can change in a heartbeat. It could go down, it could go up. You can have 6 in 1 week, 10 in 1 week, and other weeks none. Really no rhyme or reason. And that's really now what we kind of trying to be focused on is stopping the gun violence and a gun reduction program that we're going to maybe talk about today.
Right.
And that'll be in effect for some time because law enforcement, we're not good at restoring parents in homes. We're not good at restoring a neighborhood or a house, but we can do some things to maybe assist. And I think that's what we really, the country needs to focus on, parents and having parents at home and families and religion and neighborhoods. We get things when things go bad.
Right.
And we're not good at as being parents for other people's children.
Colonel Mike Evanson, who's the superintendent of the Louisiana State Police, we did it in the context of looking at the whole state. And it's so interesting, we've all discussed this, and that's that we incarcerate a larger percentage of our population than not only any other state, but any other place in the world. 95% of those guys that come out of prison get back in the community, and well over 50%, I've heard numbers up to 60 or 70% are back on the streets within 5 years. Are y'all still seeing that?
Well, certainly we are, and you look at nationally, the people that are incarcerated today, within 3 to 5 years upon their release, 72% of them are going to be back in the system. So it's a tremendous recidivism rate. So whatever we're doing in the systems are not working.
Right.
Here in Louisiana, it's a 65% recidivism rate. Same thing, 3 to 5 years when they're out, they're going to be back in. And that pretty much mirrors what we see here in the East Baton Rouge Parish. And, we've got to change our whole approach to incarceration. Back in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, even the 50s, we were putting people in jail to protect society and for them to pay back their debt to society. But rehabilitation did not exist. And
Right.
it's still what we're doing today is not working because we're not putting enough resources or enough effort into trying to rehabilitate those prisoners. At Parish Prison, we have the approach that it doesn't matter if they're there 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. We're going to expose them to as much rehabilitation as we can. Whether they take advantage of it, we don't know, but we're going to expose them to as much as we can. We've gone from 2 self-help programs out there under Warden Grimes to over 19 now, and that's anger management, parenting skills, goes on and on. We opened a faith-based wing, which is inmates that go in there to get religious instruction on a daily basis from all denominations. We opened up a GED wing where the ones that want to try to get an education can get in that environment to do so. And we've graduated over 300 with the GED. Where we missed the boat, Locke, and it's so important because I'll get in that later. Give these gentlemen the opportunity to talk. When you look at the root cause of crime, as we see it, of crime, I mean, we need to do more in addressing those root causes.
It was shocking to me reading articles in preparation for this that we have a per capita murder rate higher than Los Angeles, higher than Chicago, higher than New York, Cleveland, Boston. It just blew my mind. And so clearly we aren't doing, not only here in the state, but really all over the nation, what needs to be done to stem the tide of what's just taken place over the last 50 or 60 years. Mm-hmm. We were reflecting on the changes in culture. How have we gone from where we were in the 50s and 60s to where we are today? Chief?
We've lost our moral compass completely.
Y'all agree?
I totally agree with that. I think if you look at what the mindset is today and you see where the crime has escalated to the point it is today, it goes back to the 60s. When we took prayer out of school, that was the beginning as far as I was concerned. Then we had this explosion of drugs during that same time, 60s and 70s, and that has increased. And I think we all three will sit here and tell you that the majority of the crime committed in the United States today is drug-related, which is the truth. And I can take you to parish prison and we can look at the inmates that are there, and two things hit you in the face. One is, I think it's 98, 99%, maybe 100%, but 98, high percentage of them are addicted to drugs or alcohol or both. So you can't say that that is not a contributing factor to a life in crime. The other thing that hits you in the face, average education was 7th grade.
All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines. We're talking about the serious crime in Baton Rouge. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines, a very important show today. We're talking about crime in Baton Rouge. We have the sheriff, the chief of the Baton Rouge City Police, and our district attorney. We're talking about, gentlemen, how the culture has changed. God's been removed, kind of respect for authority, personal responsibility, and we, you guys have been, each one of y'all have been involved in law enforcement from the ground, front of the troops,
Right.
And now you're generals. But tell me, Chief, what you've seen take place?
Well, I think all is not lost, Meredith, because
Well, that's good news.
What I see now is I guess a cultural revolution in the inner city. I have 4 ministers that I've commissioned as chaplains for the Baton Rouge Police Department, and they all 4 have large churches, and I felt it was important to partner with those churches because I believe that we have to put God in this equation. It's too big for me. It's too big for Sid. It's too big for Hillar. It's too big for all 3 of us. So when we put God in the mix, and I can tell you that these Baptist preachers, they're all on board. This BRAVE program that Hillar has come and brought, I can't say enough about.
Excellent.
We were all in on it. These ministers are all in on it. But people have to change the way that society has to change. And you have to be responsible. And you can't just, you got to know where your kids are at 9 o'clock. We just raided Club Theory just the other night. And we arrested 29. 23 were underage. And this is 2 o'clock in the morning. So do the parents know where these kids are? No, they're at Club Theory drinking.
Hillar, I know that you have focused particularly on truancy as a cause, a significant problem, which dovetails into what the sheriff was saying. Tell the folks about what's going on.
Well, first to address something the chief said with losing some morals. I think what we're missing right now and what this BRAVE project is going to bring back with the help of the sheriff's deputies and the city police, it's that moral voice that we're missing. Now the people in the community are not saying to their community members, hey, what you're doing is wrong. Don't do it again. You don't hear that because they're afraid.
So there's no social stigma?
There's none at all whatsoever.
Outcasting.
And they're not afraid of the police or the system. So when you see BRAVE rolled out, that is a critical part of the system, is re-engaging that community. Let their own people say, we don't like what you're doing. We may like you, we don't like what you're doing, and if you do it again, you should go to jail, and we're with the police. But that is a huge part of that program and a huge part of our problems right now.
Before we address truancy, tell me about, because as I understand it, there's everybody knows where most of the crime is occurring. It's within 3 or 4 zip codes, primarily in North Baton Rouge. Y'all give me the stats on that.
Well, yeah,
Go ahead, Hillar.
The biggest is we hate to keep picking on 70805 because we're talking about very small segments. It's a 3 square mile area in 70805. If you break it down, it's maybe 1/30th of the entire city.
Yeah, 13% of the population.
But if you break it down to the 3 square mile area that we really are going to look at, they're responsible for 35% of the murders, 40% of the armed robberies, 40% of the drug deals. That's a significant number for a small amount of people. And that means that we can really focus and have some focused deterrence on that small number as opposed to 2,000 people parish-wide, and you handle that small problem, and then you can move to the other areas that the sheriff has in Glen Oaks and Gardere, or in the avenues, or now South Baton Rouge took over 05 just within the last month or two for murders.
And Hillar's absolutely correct about that 70805. But when you look at the perpetrators there, they're just not stopping at their zip code. You know, they commit things in and around.
No place is safe anymore.
No place is safe.
I've seen tons of bystander, reports and articles where they're either shot or they're killed.
That's right.
And you know, I think where we are today, when we talked about that and some of the root causes of crime, I think a lot has to do with the moral fiber and the fact that we mentioned we took prayer out of school. When we took God out of that equation, that's when it all started with the drugs. But there's been a tremendous breakdown in the family.
True.
Most of the young people that we have to deal with today, the ones that we have to deal with from a criminal standpoint, their home is broken at best, and it's usually a single mother, single grandmother who's working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. They're not in school, they're not in church. So, when you look at that, they're not getting any of the guidance or any positive enforcement from anywhere. And it's like the chief said, I tell parents every day, you best have a meaningful dialogue and relationship with your child and know where your child is. If you don't know where your child is, chances are they're somewhere you don't want them to be.
Yeah.
Greater chance you're with somebody you want to be with, and there's even greater chance they're doing something they shouldn't do. And those type of people, and Hillar can tell you, the chief can tell you, when we look at these young people that we have to deal with, they will look you, you'll ask them, where are you going to be 5 years from now? They'll look you dead in the eye and say, I'm going to be dead or in prison. And
Dead or in prison.
Dead or in
Absolutely.
prison. And they believe that.
No
They
hope.
honestly believe it. It's like they're living in a third world country and there's nothing out there for them. But what they hear from the peers that they have is all the negative message. You want what he has, you take your gun and you go get it. This guy disrespects you, you go flopping. That's what they
Kill
term
him.
killing.
That's right.
You get what you can now because you're not going to get it any other way. And they
And you're going to be dead or in jail.
You're going to be
That's
dead
right.
or in jail. And you
It's
believe
a
they not
self-fulfilling
getting
prophecy.
That's right. And they're not getting the message, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, I am my neighbor's keeper, I am love thy neighbor's as self. What they hear is, why do you want to go work 40 hours a day? I make that much money 1 hour selling dope.
Right.
And it's a culture, it's a mindset, and they get to believe it, that's all there is, and that's what I do. And if I get killed, so be it. If I'm in jail, so be it. I've had 8 years out there getting what I wanted.
Chief,
And that's it.
talk to me about, guys, that the community that is being destroyed and decimated by crime is the black community based
is.
on what I'm reading.
It
Tell
is.
me about that.
It is, and I'm going to say this, and I've been known to be a little bit outspoken, but if the black community, if black criminals were going into affluent white communities and committing these crimes on affluent white people, they wouldn't give us enough money. The money would come flooding
Just pouring in. You get everything you need.
But it's apathy on the part of a lot of people, because this whole Baton Rouge community needs to come together as one to fight this problem. And that's why white churches need to foster a relationship with black churches in the inner city Baton Rouge, because it is a Baton Rouge wide problem, and it's black on black, and it's apathy by the rest of the parish because it doesn't affect me.
They think, but it is effective now. We're going to continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines. We're talking about crime in Baton Rouge. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, very pleased to have on the show today the Sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish, Sid Gautreaux, the Police Chief, For the city of Baton Rouge, Dewayne White, and the district attorney, Hillar Moore, we're talking about crime. The bottom line is we were talking about, gentlemen, the statistics, and I'm about to read some, show that the black community, black men, black young boys are being destroyed, decimated by crime.
Yes.
There was a commission made by the governor, Governor Jindal, and it was headed up by a good number of gentlemen. It looks like almost 20 folks. The chairman was Dr. Calvin McKee. And the analysis, or the title of it, was Restoring and Renewing Our Most Vital Asset, the Black Boys and Men of Louisiana. Listen to these statistics and you tell me if this is what you're seeing. I'm not going to read them all, but it says education is the strongest and most predictive determinant of health, socioeconomic, and criminal outcomes. 1 year of increase in the average level of schooling in a community results in a 30% decrease in overall murder rates. Louisiana has 84% of all its public school students are low income. 15% of them have a special health care need. Louisiana, unfortunately, as seems usual, is ranked 50th in child homelessness. 35% of Louisiana children are obese. Regarding men, during a 20-year period, their earnings for black men went from $24,000 to $28,000. In fourth grade, 68% of whites don't read at grade level, but 91% of black children do not. Suspension rates for black students are 2 times the rate of their white counterparts. Louisiana leads the nation and the world, as we've discussed, in the incarceration per capita, and we incarcerate at twice the national average. 21% of all Louisiana black males between 19 and 64, listen to this, 21%, 1 out of 5, are currently either incarcerated, under probation, or under parole supervision. Beginning in the 21st century, 1 out of every 6 black males will have been incarcerated, put in prison in their lifetime. And at current trends, it will be 1 out of every 3 black males born today. I'm almost done. It's overwhelming, though. The typical inmate is in his 30s, lived in poverty, never finished high school, functions at a 5th grade level, uninsured, unemployed, no job skills, addicted, and more likely than not, has a mental illness or an infectious disease. The majority of the inmates have children under 18, 72%. 1 out of every 5 of those children have had a parent who has been in prison, and there are almost half have a parent in the system right now, in the prison system. The cost to taxpayers, to Louisiana, $24,000 to incarcerate an adult, $45,000 to incarcerate a youth, $9,000 to send a child to school from K to 12th grade. It's unbelievable.
It is.
Is that what y'all are seeing?
Oh,
yeah.
oh, absolutely.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
No doubt. You know, when we look at the homicide rate in the parish, we see that the average victim fits that profile that you just said. The average victim is between 17 and 25 years old, black male. The average perpetrator is the same thing, 17 to 25-year-old black male. And it is. I mean, we're seeing the destruction of young black men that are killing each other.
Homicide is the leading cause
Of death.
of death in young black males in Baton Rouge.
The 2011 statistics, tell the folks what they are.
They're just bad. It's just you do not want to be a young black male in America for that reason, homicide reason, but particularly in Baton Rouge. And you cite off all those statistics with healthcare issues and all those things. They all matter. And now when we're looking at homicide with this BRAVE and Operation Ceasefire, gun violence reduction, you look at it medically. Like when you go to a doctor, they just not only tell you, okay, you're sick and you have cancer or whatever, they tell you how you got to that position, how you can avoid it again.
Right.
And a bunch of different people work together to say, let's not have it happen again.
Right.
To try to cure you. So now under the model that we're going to employ, we're going to attack it like it's a medical issue and
Fascinating.
go through it that way. And that's how it's going to, because
Right.
it's all about your health, it's about our education. And that's why we'll continue to lock people up. And you know, our job is public safety, and we're going to put people in jail that need to be in jail.
That's right.
But until we're able to stop it at the lower level, from birth to 4-year-old, that's where we have to work on it. Because right now, there's a generation that's just, we have to hammer them and do what we have to do. Some of it's too late, but we have to work also on the bottom line so they never get to having to come and be arrested. And so we solve the problem.
So either we stop it before they become
Well,
criminals.
that's
That's
the
true.
problem, but because
it's not gonna get
you know
stopped.
when it gets to us,
Too late
we're
sometimes.
that's right. So there's twofold here with that analogy, and I agree with Hillar totally. One is from the people that we have incarcerated. We need to do everything we can to provide the services and provide those things, as I mentioned, to try to make that person come out of prison with a skill, with a different mindset to become a productive citizen. If we don't, that's going to continue.
And they're
All the
coming back,
costs- all
70
the
or
costs-
80%.
That's right. All the costs you say associated with that is going to happen. But the other thing that we've missed a boat on, I'm saying we in general,
The society.
right, is that we have not addressed the problem before they get to the point that we have to handcuff them and put them in jail, and Hillar has to prosecute them, and then they're spending several years of their life there. And that's the beauty part about the BRAVE system. You know, it's incumbent upon us to do everything we can with all the resources we have available to bear upon the problem and to try to serve and protect and decrease crime, prevent crime, whatever, deter crime. And we do that, and we're going to do that. But that in itself is not going to stop this madness. It's not going to stop this problem, because it's not just a law enforcement problem.
Well, heck,
No.
if it was, we wouldn't
We wouldn't
have
be-
murder rates
Right.
that
That's
we
right.
have,
Right.
That's
and the
right.
largest percentage of
That's
our
right.
population
Yeah.
in jail.
Exactly
It's just
right.
not working.
That's right. And you know, Councilman Edwards said it best. She said any effort on law enforcement will be short-lived
Yeah.
without community involvement.
That's exactly
And-
right.
And that is where we've missed the boat. Because, listen, we go into the worst areas. We go into the most impoverished, the most high crime areas in East Baton Rouge Parish. But when we go in there, Locke, we go in there and enforce local, state, federal agencies. We all go there. We go in there looking for the criminal activity. We go in there with warrants and people we have. But it's a twofold thing. And that's what BRAVE has done. People ask me, and they asked me last week, will BRAVE work? Well, I can tell you from a law enforcement standpoint, I know it'll work, because we've been doing that in the sheriff's office. It's not only, it's the community outreach. You have to get out and make the community and the people that you serve know that you care, know that you're not going to be here today, gone tomorrow, and know that we're really here to try to help them. That's what we do.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for being on Legal Lines and us talking about crime. Sheriff Sid Gautreaux, thank you. Police Chief Dewayne White, thank you. And Hillar Moore, District Attorney, thank you very much. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines show. We're talking about crime in Baton Rouge. And it's serious, folks. We're very pleased to have on the show the Sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish, Sid Gautreaux. We have the Police Chief of the City of Baton Rouge, Dewayne White, and we have the District Attorney, Hillar Moore. I want you to understand that our crime rate per capita in Baton Rouge is higher than Los Angeles, New York, and even Chicago. It's serious. So we're going to talk to those gentlemen about what we need to do, what we're doing, and what else you can do to help us reduce crime. So join us on the next Legal Lines. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Hello, welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and this is a continuation of our crime shows where we're talking about the serious problem that we have in Baton Rouge with crime and what we're going to do about it. We're very fortunate to have on the show Sid Gautreaux. He's the sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish, chief of the Baton Rouge City Police, Dewayne White, and the district attorney, Hillar Moore. Gentlemen, again, thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
We've talked about how bad crime is and how it's more than, putting people in prison is not solving the problem.
It is not.
And so you guys, along with the mayor and the Metro Council, have put together resources to implement BRAVE.
Yes.
What is BRAVE, Chief?
Baton Rouge Area Violence Elimination Project.
So that's the acronym for what?
That's the acronym.
What's it mean? What is
Well,
this plan?
in a nutshell, it is to provide what I believe offenders an avenue of hope to take another avenue instead of incarceration.
Give them a fork in the road.
Give them a fork in the road. If they're willing to take it, we're going to give you all the resources you need. If you need a GED, we're going to help you get your GED. If you have substance abuse issues, we're going to tackle those. Like Hillar says, that they go to the top of the line. We're going to get them what they need, the help they need, to help them have a productive and meaningful life. And you know, I see it every day in the city. And when we go out and we do narcotics, undercover narcotics, and we do street ops, I've actually had people come out and applaud.
Applaud who?
The police for taking down the street level dealers. Actually come out and give a standing ovation.
Is that unusual?
Well, I felt it was kind of unusual, but it's something that
Is that a change in attitude?
It is a change in attitude in the African American community, because what I believe, and I believe there's no one's life is more precious than the next. And what I see in the African American community is a cry for help. We've had enough, because there are a lot, 95, 98%, I hate to use percentages, are good people.
And they're terrorized.
And they're terrorized, and not only are they terrorized, they're held captive in their own homes by a bunch of gun-toting thugs that are selling dope and killing one another over conflict issues, over disputes, and over whether you're selling dope on my territory or another person's territory, and they're fed up. And I hear it from the pulpit, I hear it from the community.
Hillar, are you the one that kind of brought this to the forefront, or was it a group effort, or how did this go down?
Everybody has worked together in this program. But let me just make sure we'll make it real clear. Putting people in jail for a long time is a significant part of this program.
Okay. Because you know there's going to be a lot of folks say, wait a minute, these are people murdering people, committing crimes,
no, absolutely.
Mamby-pambying?
These people who are criminals of that nature, we're talking about a list, the A list. That A list is people that have to go to jail. There's absolutely no trying to save them or help them whatsoever. The people who are on the B list, so to speak, those that are not engaged in criminal activity but are right there and
can do it next, do something.
You give them the chance to where they're not going to get to that A list. Putting people in jail is a significant part, and the biggest part with this is that you have the ministers, but you have the community themselves saying, look, we used to never be with the chief and the sheriff, and we used to always shut up, but we're not shutting up anymore. We're with them guys. If you mess up, if you commit any act, particularly act of violence, we want you in jail, we're going to be in court, and we're happy that you're in jail. We still love you, but you got to go to jail because you can't comply with the rules. Now, you second group, if you want to take this second chance, then here you go. But no, people that have committed serious offenses,
okay,
they're not
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing here is that, you know, I wish we didn't lead that statistic, but I can tell you from my standpoint as sheriff, you know, there's people out here that need to go to jail, deserve to be in jail, and they're going to go to jail. While they're there, we'll do what we can to try to turn them around.
Because we don't want them to come back and kill somebody else.
Get out, go through the same circle,
Right.
cost us money, cost some more lives, cost everything to come back in. We want them to be productive citizens. But as Hillar said, we've got a segment out here that it's not that somebody won't try, it's not that you don't keep praying for them, but they're hardcore killers. They have no compunction at all about pulling the trigger. They have no conscience about the outcome of that with that person and that person's family and even their family. They don't care.
No value attributed to
Those
life.
people,
No.
we know that. But as Hillar said, the at-risk, the ones that's hanging with the group, but they ain't
Right.
quite stepped over the line yet. That's the one that this BRAVE program, and Hillar's being modest. He's really the guy that brought this program. We're all on board. Everybody's on board. All the entities been mentioned are all on board. But Hillar's really the guy that brought this. But to going back to the communities where most of this is occurring, Locke, every time we go in, and I tell the guys and the girls before we deploy, I said, let me tell you something. Keep it in perspective. We're going after these bad guys that live in this area, but the majority of the people there are good people. They're just like me and you. They just want to live in peace and raise a family. And what the chief told you is absolutely correct. Why do you think we have had such a high clearance rate on our homicides with the sheriff's office? I'm there, I watch my guys. Hillar's there. He knows my detectives, even my uniformed patrol deputies, getting calls from people living there saying, the guy you looking for,
Right.
they're tired of it.
So this is a
They're tired of
change.
it.
This
It's
is
a
a very
change.
positive thing.
It's a whole change in attitude. And let me tell you this, there's not a man, woman, or child living in East Baton Rouge Parish that crime does not
That's right.
affect each and every one of us.
I mean, you guys know I got really
Right.
involved
You
here
can't
when
say-
those kids got shot at that mall.
That's right.
Yes.
And you can't say, I live in this gated community and it doesn't affect me. It does.
That's right.
It does. And, you know, you can't put your head in the sand and say, look, it's not my
Not my
problem. It's
problem.
their
It's not my
problem.
problem.
It's
It
their
is your
problem.
problem.
It's happening over here. When it gets to me, I'm going to move. Where are you going to move to? It's happening everywhere. So my point is, and these gentlemen will tell you the same thing, everybody has a role to play in this. No one individual or no one entity is going to change it all, but all of us collectively will. But we can't do it from a law enforcement or prosecution standpoint without going to root causes, which we've all discussed already, and getting that part of the community involved. And I don't care if it's just mentoring a kid. I don't care what it is. Everybody out here, everybody in this room is a role model every day of our lives. And that's where it's going to take changing the young. You know, the other issues, economics, you know, joblessness, those are things that are bigger and beyond our scope. But I mean, it's just the moral fabric and the family itself. And, you know, it's everybody's. It's
Hillar,
everybody's problem.
you know, we've all talked about this, and that there has been culturally, nationally, and certainly here, just kind of a degeneration of the family structure.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, a lot of these kids who y'all are seeing commit crimes never had a chance because they
Right.
didn't have a family, they didn't have an adult model, like you're
Right.
saying, Sid. Tell the folks what y'all are trying to do to address that problem. I don't know how
Well,
the government becomes the parent, but we got to do something.
It's hard, you can't, but I can guarantee you right now, if you went to the school teachers, they're gonna tell you who the next generation is, the kids that are at risk. And we can talk a little bit later about the Truancy Center and what we're doing with the children, but we can identify them now.
So we know who's at risk.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
No question.
That brings to my mind with the fact that we do have kids doing a lot of crime. Let's address that on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith, Legal Lines. We'll talk about crime, and we'll be right back. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and we're talking about the serious crime problem we have in Baton Rouge. Very fortunate again to have on the show the Sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish, the Police Chief of the Baton Rouge City, and also the District Attorney for the East Baton Rouge Parish. Gentlemen, we've kind of talked about the problem. What are we going to do about it? You were explaining BRAVE. Any further details to provide in that regard?
It would probably take 2 hours to explain the BRAVE, but the bottom line is that it's a focused deterrence. That is, you focus on the baddest actors, the
Which
high
is in
nails.
zip code 70805.
Well, that's where we're going to start.
Okay.
We have bad actors in other areas, not just 05, and you hammer down the biggest nails.
Okay.
And it takes care of that problem. You move to the next area, and that's what it does, and hopefully give hope and help to some of those that are not the high nails, the low hanging folks, and try to help them out. That's really it in a nutshell, but it's focused deterrence, and it's evidence-based. It is statistics and numbers, and these guys are dumping all of their reports into a big computer at LSU. They're our research partner, and they map it all out socially. They tell us where the people and the places are, and that's where we go.
And as I understand, you've dedicated a certain number of officers, and the sheriff has too.
We have, and it's turning out to be invaluable. And I want to stress on something Hillar said. 2 words: help and hope. And that's what the BRAVE program brings. And the African American community deserves that. They need that, because too many mothers are losing their sons. Too many brothers are losing their brothers. Too many sisters are losing their brothers. It's time for it to come to an end. It's time to stop. And so I have assembled a hand-picked team of officers. There's probably some as good, but there are none better. And they've been provided with all the resources they need. And you see, we've seen the videos. You've seen them on YouTube with the loving it and thugging it with the weapons. Well, I can tell you that these guys have those type of weapons. So if they encounter that type of firepower, they have weaponry to go up against it. But what they are doing is something different, totally different. It's a different approach. They're going in the community, and they're going up and embracing the community, and they're leaving their number with people.
So they're relational,
making relationships with communities, and the weapons that they're taking off the street, the information that they're getting, it's phenomenal. By just making and fostering a relationship with the people we serve, that should have been done many times, many years ago, that we're starting to do now, is starting to yield profound results.
Sheriff, I know that you've dedicated significant resources to this, in manpower and others.
Yes, and Locke, that's what the chief is talking about, is what we've been doing in the sheriff's office the last 5 years. We've got a 12-man SCAT unit. They do these things. We've got a community policing unit we started. They do these things. We've got we do bike patrol. We've dedicated
canines already.
Canine. I've got my canine guys who work closely with those groups. They're involved with this program as well. Actually, our emergency services unit, who's involved with our SCAT a lot, they're involved with this. So we're bringing it all, and that's why I say I know it works, because it's worked for us. And it's walking door to door. It's getting out and fostering those relationships. And that's one of the reasons that we have the clearance rate we have that I spoke of earlier.
Clearance rate, meaning solving the crime?
Solving crimes. We can't solve crimes on our own. We can collect evidence.
And Hillar can't put them away if you don't get the right evidence.
That's right.
Hillar can't prosecute without it. There's physical evidence that we can collect most of the time. Sometimes there's none. But there's information. No crime is committed in this parish that somebody doesn't know who did it.
I know Katrina, they talk about the Katrina effect.
Let's talk about Katrina.
And Hillar and I have talked privately that there was a change when those bad actors that came over with, plenty of good folks came from New Orleans, but there was a percentage of really bad actors.
Yes.
And unfortunately, they brought what, Hillar?
Yeah, well, the legacy I think that they left, in my opinion, is that they taught our people how to do a better job of being a bad guy, but basically to shut up, not to talk, and how to intimidate witnesses.
So they
and possibly on occasion kill, but particularly intimidate witnesses, not to talk or not to come to court. That is the legacy that group of people came and they left us.
But the community now says enough.
Enough.
The community said enough. And let's talk about Katrina. We went through a tremendous change overnight. We went to the most heavily populated parish in the state overnight. We're never going to step back from that. And I agree with Hillar totally. We had our own homegrown little thugs, but I think they got a college education from the thugs that came in here from New Orleans. The majority of people came here from New Orleans were not bad people, but that element came, and that escalated our element here and educated them into those ways. What happened though, and I think, Chief, I can't speak for you, but I can certainly speak from the sheriff's office. We had this tremendous increase in population, but the sheriff's office didn't have a tremendous increase in resources, neither did Baton Rouge City.
Overwhelmed. I remember you telling me when you were a Baton Rouge cop 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
Almost the same number of officers then or cops as there are today.
That's right.
When
You're
I took
exactly right.
office, we had 115 uniform patrol deputies. I've got 200 now, but I've stretched the nickel as far as I can. And I still, even though I have those positions, I got some 56 positions that we haven't been able to fill because of money. And, you know, but at some point, the resources, the real resources are going to have to be directed to the sheriff, to Baton Rouge City, and to the DA's office for us to really be able to be as effective as you want us to be and that we want to be. Bottom line, we only can do so much.
You know, the other issue with the Katrina that we have also seen is that although a lot of those folks have left, they've made relationships here.
That's true.
And they're through Houston, Texas,
So
Baton Rouge,
created a
New Orleans.
network.
So now we're not only talking about just drugs, but also guns,
Right.
and it's a little bit harder to track, and
I'm
that's
amazed
another
at
difficulty.
The human trafficking and,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
such that takes place
Yeah.
in Louisiana.
Yes.
I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
Right.
When you talk about our cooperation, though, and this started before the BRAVE program with the Violent Crime Unit, and we go back to Mike Edmondson, this was a first. This has never happened in the history of this parish with this cooperation. But it brought in state, federal, and local, and it put our investigators, Baton Rouge City, DA, ours, sitting together, looking at each other day to day to say, hey, we got this shooting last night, here's the casings we found, it might have been shots fired, whatever, that they can look across from each other and work from each other. Because before, Baton Rouge City, we were working on things that we didn't know about, we were
Right.
working on things they didn't know about, and a lot of these players are the same guys. So they're able to put the people, they're able to work with the crime lab, and I'll give Mike Edmondson this credit. Mike, if it wouldn't be for his leadership, we would have never had the place to house this, and which is at the state police.
Yeah.
None of us had that kind of space.
Another big component that we've kind of overlooked has been the Department of Corrections.
That's right.
And probation and parole. They are key to this, and they are through Bobby Jindal and the secretary now. They're doing a lot more work in the prison at rehabilitation and getting these offenders out.
Excellent. All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith Legal Lines. We're talking about crime. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. We're talking about crime in Baton Rouge, and again, very pleased to have on the show the Sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish, the Police Chief, and the District Attorney. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit. We've talked about the Violent Crimes Unit, BRAVE. There's some other programs that are being implemented. But the bottom line is, you guys don't have enough manpower. You don't have all the resources you need, all the services to try and keep these folks out of prison or while they're in prison getting educated. Hillar, talk to me about that.
Well, nobody has enough money to do what we think we need to do. And when you look at other cities and compare other cities and jurisdictions, when they ask how many officers we have and how many DAs, it's kind of a joke. And you have how many murders, and that's all that you have.
Because each of your attorneys were 400 cases a year, right?
Oh, at least 500 cases a year minimum. But you know, so that's an issue. So now that's why we're really moving to some BRAVE efforts, where you're not going to hire more people. You're going to work differently, hopefully work smarter. But I think that these people need to get more officers. I think that we would be embarrassed if the people knew how many officers and deputies were working per shift, per location. You'd be scared. How many gentlemen they would have working narcotics compared to other cities our size,
Right.
when drugs is a big issue.
Because isn't there like a federal stat that says per thousand you should have this many?
It's just a guideline, but
It's a guideline.
nobody can meet that.
So it's it's priorities. It's where does Baton Rouge want to be priority wise? You know, do we think we have enough money that we can reprioritize where we're spending our money and spend it on law enforcement? But you know, we also as a group here, we just don't want to ask for the pie in the sky, and that's why we gave a listing of different things that we thought we needed.
So how many more folks do you need? Prosecutors do you need?
It would depend on how many more officers you put. Every officer you put, that's 240 more cases a year that somebody has to prosecute. So if you add more officers, then you have to add more DAs and possibly add more judges. So that's a
Holy moly.
that's significant.
Well, Chief, you told me that last time we had spoke, I think you would love to get 200 new officers. Where are we?
I'd
Have
like,
we gotten any new?
well, you know,
I know you did a police academy.
Yeah, we did one. The mayor has just, we're getting ready to start with one, I believe on the 30th, 34-man academy. We had 4 recent vacancies, so we were able to fill those. I've gotten some of the best qualified candidates that we've seen in many years. And this academy is half protected class, half African American female.
Which is what you were.
That's what I want. Exactly. I want a diversified group of people because I believe there's strength in diversity. And, you know, but as these people come in, I have people going out the door. Attrition.
You're losing
So
guys.
it's we have got to stay up with that attrition rate.
So we're treading water.
We're just treading water right now.
So you still need 200.
I still need 200, and I need I'm talking about more people in narcotics, working narcotics.
Because that seems to be the root. I mean, we're talking about the socioeconomic stuff for the family and all that, but the bottom line is drugs and booze. Addiction is.
And sex
Right.
offenders and juvenile. I mean, used to be there was a big sex offender group and a juvenile office. They now are doing other things. So, you know, juveniles, that's going to be the future people that we're dealing with. They really need juvenile divisions. The amount of sex offenses that we have now is unbelievable. We
Yes.
only can have 1 prosecutor at our office to handle sex offenses, 1 for domestic violence. We had 9 murders this year with domestic violence. Just not enough. It's increasing. So we need those divisions, those departments to concentrate and focus on those areas, and they can't because they're out answering these calls all over the place, and it's tough to really focus and sit back and say, okay, I can really prepare for this case, because we want to give Cadillacs, and we got a lot of Volkswagens that we're able to give because of the volume, with each ADA handling 18 murders, 20 murders each.
So everybody's
it's
just
significant.
treading water.
I just want to insert this. You know, I spoke to the police chief of Shreveport, and at the time I called probably about 2 months ago. They had 8 murders in Shreveport, and that's a fairly large city. And I said, what are you doing differently? Well, we're really not doing anything differently, but what we do have is a new public safety complex that has a city jail that we take misdemeanor offenders. We don't give them summonses. We bring them to jail. If we have a conflict between 2 individuals, we bring them to jail.
So there's a consequence.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
There's a consequence, and there's also a cooling off period. So if Baton Rouge needs anything right now, it needs a downtown jail. Now the sheriff has been gracious enough to say if he had the money, give him the money, he'll run the jail.
When you already have the 3rd largest prison in the state.
Yeah, but I can tell you the chief's exactly right. The fact that we don't turn away misdemeanors. Most misdemeanors, some don't have to go to jail, but some of them do, and especially when you talk about violent misdemeanors.
Sure, we're on
they need to go to jail. But I think that really hurts the criminal justice system, and it gives the perception to the public that if you commit a misdemeanor crime, nothing's going to happen to you. That's why we're sitting on all these thousands and thousands of warrants that people get a misdemeanor summons and they tear it up and they don't go to court. Then they get another court date, they don't show up. They get another court date, they don't show up. And that in itself has been so detrimental to the efforts of law enforcement, is because these people on a misdemeanor level, so they don't have any respect for the system at all.
And it's reinforced.
And it's right.
It is.
And it's reinforced. When we shut down that downtown jail, it was a very detrimental effect. It was a bad message to the men and women in law enforcement who were out there trying to enforce laws. It was a bad message to the victim of crimes, and it was a terrible message to send to the perpetrators, because they say, hey.
So is it up and running now, right?
No.
I thought for a while we had the.
We do it at every 2-week increments, as you've seen, as the money is, and it's coming out of these guys' pockets.
And I know y'all have all streamlined your offices as much as you can.
We have.
Y'all have combined departments and you've moved people around.
And
Locke, one of the things that happened with me when I took office is we saw there wasn't any juvenile, and we saw the increase back then in juvenile crime, right after Katrina and stuff. But I had a decision to make. Do I want to start a juvenile section, or do I need to booster up our sex offender we had no homicide division. The homicide division
Right.
was more important to
people
me
getting killed.
to that.
Right.
So we had to take the resources we had and move them. We had, I think, 2 people in sex offender at the time. I got 8 deputies now.
Yeah.
But we're using our resources
As
the
best
best
you can.
way we can.
But you don't
We
have
just
enough.
have
And
enough.
Hell, we're
what
talking about the juvenile
talking
problem.
about, we're not talking about now computers, telephone, electronics that is now
Blown
the
up.
lifeblood of law enforcement. We're way behind our ability to catch up with that, and that's huge for us. But
Talk about the juvenile matter.
juvenile crime is significant. I mean, you see and read it in the paper and on the news where we are trying juvenile defendants as adults because we cannot get the outcome in juvenile court where juvenile life is 21. Someone kills somebody. We have to protect the public, and the only way I think that we can do it on certain cases is to try them as an adult
Yeah.
to get them much more time.
Now, you're also focused on truancy. Try and hit that real fast for the
Well, the
folks.
truancy center, fortunately, we've been working on this with all of us here
Sure.
for years, and it's finally going to open in August. And as I told you, these teachers can tell you which kids are at risk and which ones will be in jail. We have identified those at-risk kids. If we can only get to their parents so that they know and they would take a better role with their kids, we could solve a lot of this problem.
And the bottom line is, number one, everybody needs more money so they can get the manpower and the tools they need
Yeah.
to keep doing it. We're going to have to continue this, gentlemen. Hillar, thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Locke.
coming in. Sheriff,
Thank you, Locke.
thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. This is Locke Meredith of Legal Lines. Thank you for being with us. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines show. We're talking about crime in Baton Rouge. And it's serious, folks. We're very pleased to have on the show the Sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish, Sid Gautreaux. We have the Police Chief of the City of Baton Rouge, Dewayne White, and we have the District Attorney, Hillar Moore. I want you to understand that our crime rate per capita in Baton Rouge is higher than Los Angeles, New York, and even Chicago. It's serious. So we're going to talk to those gentlemen about what we need to do, what we're doing, and what else you can do to help us reduce crime. So join us on the next Legal Lines. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and frankly, we're having kind of an encore presentation here, show. We're talking about crime. Again, we have the Sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish, Sid Gautreaux. We have the Chief of the Baton Rouge City Police, Dewayne White, and the District Attorney for the entire parish, Hillar Moore. Gentlemen, we were talking about crime and what we're trying to do and implement to take it under control, but the bottom line is resources are maxed from everything I'm hearing.
Right.
Your personnel, your manpower is doing everything it can. You've got it streamlined. You've got them where you have to put them. You're having to prioritize
Right.
where you put them. What do we do?
Well, what you have to do is you have to stretch your resources as much as you possibly can.
But y'all have done that, right, Chief?
Well,
I mean,
we have. What I told my CIB commander to do is quit specializing so much and generalize. So if things overlap like fraud, forgery, put that and felony theft together. Put those 2 divisions together. Would I rather have it specialized? Yes, because these when you specialize in something, you're able to go to court to
That's right.
articulate
You don't
it better.
drop the ball,
and
they
don't
put
drop
them
the
away.
ball.
The
That's right.
prosecutors put them away.
And they know what Hillar's looking for in a report and the evidence he needs. But I don't have that. I need probably 30 to 35 investigators right now in CIB.
CIB.
Criminal Investigation Bureau.
Okay.
I need, right now, I'm probably 35 short.
And you need 200 more officers on the,
I need 200
Boots on the ground.
We do. And the reason we need that is because we need to be able to adequately provide quality police services in a timely fashion to the people of the city of Baton Rouge. And you know, you get a shift where you have 2 people that call in sick and somebody on vacation, and you're rolling and they get 10 or 12, 15 file numbers. Yeah. They can't do any proactive
right.
policing.
And that's exactly what you told me last time. They can't establish relationships because they're putting out fires.
And you say, we're in the era of community policing. It's really not it's a new concept. I mean, it's a concept, but we're in community policing era. But my men don't have time to community police because they're going from time.
And so for anything really to improve with where we are right now, the community has to step up to the plate.
They do.
And really just trust law enforcement. Hopefully there's a foundation for that, but they've got to be your eyes, they've got to be your ears, and they've got to be your witnesses sometimes.
They do.
That's right.
Sheriff, you've told me in the past that you needed at least another 100 deputies. Is that still where you are?
We're in that same position. Right now, I'm 56 positions short. Those, another 100 would suffice for me to adequately deal with things right now. But you know, I'm short in all my divisions. I think we're short right now about I think 15, 17 in investigative units, and I'm short on the road. You know, another 15 or 20 deputies. But I could use them. The problem is with us is this, with the sheriff's office. When you look at how we are funded, we're funded primarily from 3 bond issues, 2 of which are renewable every 10 years. 1 is a permanent bond.
And you just renewed one, right?
We just renewed one year before last. I got to renew another one next year. But those 3 bonds are about 75% of our budget, and then the rest comes from fees and related. Where we're at now in dire straits is over an 11-year period from '99 to 2010. Our ad valorem tax were increasing by, that's property tax values. They were increasing by an average of 7% a year.
Because property values were going up.
Right.
That's heard what's going on now.
That was putting about $2.5 million a year into the sheriff's office fund. Last year, it went to 1.2%. This year, it went to 1.4%. We're losing $2.5 million a year in that regard.
Demands are greater and resources are fewer.
And then the other source of income we had was when we collect all this taxes for some 40 different taxing authorities, we put it in the bank, and when the law says in a timely fashion, we have to disperse that to all the different entities. But in the meantime, it's in the bank, and it's drawing interest, which can go back in that
which is nothing
fund.
these days.
Right.
In 4-year period from 08 through 12, we I think it was right about $5 million in interest. Interest rates has plummeted, and it's averaging now like $700,000 a year. So
you're lucky to get 1%.
I mean, it's just, and so I'm strapped. I'm strapped. If things don't change economically, and I've done everything I can, if things don't change economically by the year 2016, I'm gonna have to be looking at, and I don't want to do that. I'll go to the public before I have to do that, but laying off people. Hillar's in the same position.
Yeah, Hillar, tell me. I mean, I'm overwhelmed because I'm a lawyer and I'm contemplating working the quantity of cases your folks are. It's just unbelievable.
By the end of this year, we'll have a negative balance, and then next year it'll be a lot more negative, and most of that is governmental wise, carrying the GASP, the health care benefits that we're required to carry on the books, so to speak. So that's significant for us. But we would like to specialize. I would like to have a homicide unit.
Sure.
That those people could specialize on murder cases, domestic violence, rape cases.
The violent stuff. The guys we want out here.
He just reminded me, we talk about felony theft or theft divisions. There is so much theft, embezzlement, computer theft, ID theft. They cannot, they are so overwhelmed. That's the one job I would not want to have. These deputies and police officers are working their tails off. And I see these homicide people more than I see the others. And Saw them twice yesterday and last night. See the same guys over and over again. It's tough to follow up and work on that.
They're
one case
pouring their
when
life out.
They are working their tails off.
24/7.
We got a
And,
community. We got a. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we have a financial crimes division, which is computer fraud, computer crimes. I've got 10 deputies in there. I could use another 5, 6 right now. They are so loaded. It's just.
We're talking about volumes of evidence. You know, from a lawyer, if you're on the other side, you want to look at every document, every
That's
bank
right.
record, and it's a load for these guys. Time, I mean, it's just it's a lot. So there's a lot of things that everyone needs, and the bottom line is the prosecution and putting the guys away.
And you guys need, I mean, he can put a tax out there, but you guys really don't have that power. And my question is, you know, what is more important than public safety? I mean, why is there not areas where funds could be redirected to you guys?
Well, that's obviously a question for the mayor and the council, and that's something they have to look at, the finances. And you know, when you go to cutting and moving money around, you do affect somebody, and that's going to happen.
But what's
I
more
think
important
that-
than this, Hillar?
I think that the issue is the priorities and where you go.
That's
But
right.
besides that, I do also have the ability to ask for a tax. Man, that'd be the last thing in the world. I would want to know for sure that we've exhausted every place that we can exhaust for money first before asking people. I pay taxes when I look at the
Well,
flip
heck yeah,
side
we
of my
all pay
taxes.
taxes.
And when I look at what I'm paying for, I'm thinking, wow, you know, we really like to see a law enforcement tax there, but we recently had another tax passed. And I think the people would probably pay for it, but it's before we make that decision, we'll make it collectively. We want to make sure it is the last resort and make sure people would support it.
Well, I know in my head,
Yeah, that just scares me to death as a law enforcement professional, because we can make as many cases as we want, but if Hillar can't
can't put them
prosecute
away,
them,
we're wasting our
we're
time.
wasting our
and
time.
we got $750 million budget. Something's got to happen. All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. Locke Meredith Legal Lines. Be right back. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and we're talking about crime in Baton Rouge, and we're talking about, frankly, what the sheriff needs, what the police chief needs, and what the district attorney needs to reduce crime and put the criminals in jail and keep them away. So, Hillar, tell me what the top 3 things are you need. You kind of heard what they would
Sure.
love to get. Maybe I should go to you last,
Well,
but you're the
really-
guy that ultimately keeps them off the street.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what they receive may dictate what I would also need. But for us at our office, we don't have cars or guns and things that they need to do their job. What we have is people. And I have some very good, dedicated professionals. So I think what we need to do a better job is to have some more assistant DAs that specialize in homicides, domestic violence, and sex offenses, maybe a vehicular homicide, and some investigative staff that's more technical with computers and telephones and Twitters and tweet to keep up with these.
Because crime, how crime's committed changes.
Absolutely, it's completely changed. DNA is huge, and these victims assistance counselors and coordinators that we have, all 3 of us have been an invaluable asset for us and for the victims of crime. And that's where my money would go, is for additional assistant DAs.
Specialization.
Absolutely.
So you need investigators to make sure that you're getting done what you need to put them away, and then you need the attorneys and the
Correct.
staff to make sure that
Prepare a
they,
proper case, because as you know
Right.
as a lawyer, a murder case is like your biggest case that you have.
That's right.
And it takes a lot of time, and there's lawyers and there's judges and appellate courts. This is not an easy situation to get in.
And so you need attorneys that you can, subdivide the work up into areas where you have folks who are specializing in that,
Yeah.
and they have the time to do it completely
Yeah.
right and thorough.
Yeah, it's if you have heart problems, you want a heart surgeon that is going to dedicate themselves to your heart at
right.
that time when it's your surgery, and not jumbling a whole bunch of other.
And it's really not fun. I'm laughing, but it's really not
it's-
funny. This is a
it's
sad
a serious-
situation.
It is
that
a
we
sad
find
Serious
ourselves
situation.
in.
It is.
Chief, tell me your top 3.
People. And this is what I find very disconcerting, is the fact that everybody that we put with the supplemental budget that just passed, we got 34 people we're putting through the academy.
But that's just keeping up with who you're losing.
That's just keeping up with who we're losing. They were all 7-0 votes. I got 7 people that sit on the oral interview board. They're all 7-0 votes. But most of them, why are you applying for the Baton Rouge Police Department? Well, because state police is not hiring. So,
The springboard?
So it could be. So I'm thinking, now, am I just going to be a training? Am I just going to be a training officer for when these guys, or when Mike starts hiring, or the state starts hiring? Are they going to state police? I don't know. But I think the priority for this administration and the Metro Council and the mayor is also policemen's pay, because these officers are not being paid commensurate with what they're doing.
Do I recall correctly when we did our last show that they were paid $25 an hour or something like that?
No, that's supervisors. I have a lieutenant, a tenured, maxed out lieutenant that's making $25 an hour.
But the guys on the street on the front line,
boots on the
putting their life
ground,
in jeopardy.
they're making.
What are they making?
They're making little to nothing, and they're having to supplement their income by working an inordinate amount of extra duty.
See, this makes me think of our soldiers overseas putting their life on the line. I mean, it's just. So you need money for more people, and you need money to make sure they're properly paid.
I think so. And when you get a properly educated, properly trained, and properly paid police department, you get a more professional police department, and you become a more efficient police department. And I see that as a problem that could rise its ugly head in the near future if the state starts hiring, because they're liable to take some of our best and brightest.
Sheriff.
Certainly, my number one priority is personnel. We need more personnel. Not only just to fill our vacancies, but to expand our services in all areas that we've talked about. From a pay standpoint, that was one of the things I wanted to do as sheriff, was get our pay up to standards, and we did that. And our starting salary now, the only one in this 8 parish area that's higher than us is Ascension Parish. But having to cut back this year because of budget reasons, having to put on a hiring freeze. First time since I've been sheriff, I was not able to give a cost of living increase to our people. If that continues for a couple of years, then we're going to slide backwards in the pay scale, and that's when, like Chief White said, those people, our best and brightest, are going to get recruited by some of these other agencies that are paying more money, whatever, and we're going to lose them. But certainly, my number one priority is additional personnel and the equipment it takes to outfit those personnel to provide additional services.
Explain to the folks, and we went into this briefly, but you have a control over that to some degree because you have the power to tax. Right. Are you contemplating presenting that issue to the people?
Locke, none of us, you, myself, Hillar, Dewayne, none of us like to pay taxes. We don't like to pay taxes. And I certainly don't want to have to go back to the people in this economically depressed time and say, we need more money. But if I have to, I will. And Hillar's in the same position. But we want to make sure we exhaust everything. But what
else can you do?
There's nothing else we can do, because if you look at what we've done now, we put a hiring freeze, no raises, we pretty much stopped promotions right now. And we've done that to try to get a handle on this budget and see if this economy, see if property values will go back up to what they were, and get a handle on it. If that doesn't happen, if I stay where I'm at right now and we don't hire another deputy or promote another deputy or give any more raises or just emergency spending, if I stay like that and the income doesn't increase, I'm looking by the year 2016, I got to lay people off. And I don't think none of us, when we say law enforcement is our priority, public safety is our priority, we can't afford to take a step backwards. I can't, he can't, he can't. We can't afford to go back.
If we go backward, we'll never catch up.
We'll never catch up.
We got a hard enough job as it is right now, trying to get a handle on it and trying to get in front of it with what we have. If we got to step backwards, I don't know if we can accomplish anything that we want to accomplish.
And Hillar, you're of the same mindset.
Absolutely, and again, it has to be a last resort. The other thing I think that we had talked about is property values, where a lot of the taxes come from, how they're being assessed, or we up to date on that, and that's something that's really over my head. But I think it's something that we just need to look at everything
just
to make sure before you ask people for their money, which is tough to come by right now.
That's right. It
And,
really is.
And it is. But all of us as taxpayers, we don't mind. We know it's a necessary evil.
Would this be a dedicated tax? In other words, a tax is dedicated to a particular.
I think
Yes.
if you don't have a dedicated
Yes.
tax, you're
Yes.
opening yourself up. I think the public wants to know, if I'm going to pay you this extra
What are you
money,
gonna do?
what are you going to do
That's
with
right.
it? You're not going to tell me
It's
you're
not
going
going
to
to
hire
some general fund.
Right. You're not going to tell me you're going to hire a bunch of new people or increase these services, but you're going to give a bunch of high raises, or you're going to,
Right.
or spend it on something else. That's taboo.
So
And
if
I
y'all
think-
go to them, it's going to be, you're going to tell them what it's for,
It'll be
and
all
that's what
spelled
it's
out.
going to be spent on, and
Yes.
that's
all
that.
spelled out.
Absolutely.
We made the decision, and Hillar and I knew we were going to both be in the same position. If nothing changes within the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to both be in the same position. And before we have to cut services, we'll go to the public. But we've hired the people that we need to do the studies
So
and
you
all.
will
So
streamline.
we want to we want to make sure, and we are doing everything we can what we have to do.
Gentlemen, again, Sheriff, thank you. I
Thank
really
you, Locke.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chief,
Thank you.
Hey, Locke, appreciate it.
Hillar, thank you so much. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines. Thank you for being with us. Hello, I'm Locke Meredith, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of myself, Sean Fagan, and Corey Ogeron, and our entire staff for letting us come into your homes for the last 10 years via Legal Lines. We hope that you've come to a greater understanding of how the law works and how the government works for you. So from all of us, thank you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. Again, I'm Locke Meredith, and frankly, I'm going to do this last segment a little different than I have any other. I'm going to talk to you person to person. You know, I've spent over the last year getting educated on an issue that's very important to all of us. I've investigated, I've interviewed a lot of folks, and the bottom line is, I think I now know the answer to this question. Does Baton Rouge, does the city of Baton Rouge and the parish of East Baton Rouge have a serious crime problem? The answer? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Consider this. We have an LSU professor, Dr. Edward Shahade, who has researched crime statistics in the Baton Rouge area for years. And he's concluded that Baton Rouge, little old Baton Rouge, has a higher per capita murder rate than Los Angeles, than Chicago, than Washington, D.C., than New York, and several other crime-ridden cities. We have a serious crime problem. His statistics also show that in the last 10 years, our murder rate has increased by over 40%. He further notes that violent crime, the violence of a community, is determined most accurately by its homicide rate. We have a serious crime problem. So much so that Baton Rouge, Louisiana was featured in the Wall Street Journal for its high murder and crime rate. We have a serious crime rate. Finally, consider this. I have interviewed the sheriff of East Baton Rouge Parish, the district attorney of East Baton Rouge Parish, also Baton Rouge police chief of City of Baton Rouge, and the superintendent of the Louisiana State Police, all of whom indicate Baton Rouge has a serious, serious crime problem. Here's what they have to say.
When you look at the per capita and you look at Louisiana, and we're worse than Chicago, we're worse than New York, I mean, come on, that should concerns us. And the fact that when you look at Baton Rouge, you look at New Orleans, and we're in the top 5 of the worst cities in the nation. I live here.
This year, we're just the same as Baton Rouge City. You know, we have more homicides to date this year than we had last year, so that's very concerning to us.
And we're ahead of last year's pace, and that's disconcerting to me.
We see cases that come in, and we see that the numbers are increasing. And unfortunately, the numbers of murders or bodies, you know, the count is really, it's real and it's hard.
We've got a segment out here that it's not that somebody won't try, it's not that you don't keep praying for them, but they're hardcore killers. We're seeing the destruction of young black men.
It is a Baton Rouge-wide problem.
There's not a man, woman, or child living in East Baton Rouge Parish that crime does not
That's right.
affect each and every one of us. Where are you going to move to? It's happening everywhere.
pretty clear we've got a crime problem, a serious crime problem in Baton Rouge. So who's in a position of power to tackle this crime problem, to reduce it? Well, the bottom line is the mayor of the city is like the CEO of a corporation. He's the chief executive officer of our local government. And the mayor has the power, according to our plan of government, to direct where resources, where money, where manpower is going to be directed. And also the Metro Council participates that, but very little. The Metro Council has very limited power, basically to okay the mayor's budget, to ask questions of the mayor and of his law enforcement personnel. And that's about it. Here's what I've learned.
The person that has the power and the authority to make these decisions and tell people what to do is the mayor president. That's the way our plan of government is written. The council does not have that authority or power. Unfortunately, we wish we did. The mayor president, under our plan of government, has a lot of power, a lot of authority. He can look at his department heads, whom he appoints, and he could say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Do it this way, and I'm going to hold you accountable, and I want these results. And it has to be done. If it's not done, he fires the person he appointed and gets somebody else in that does it.
Now that was Mike Walker, who is the mayor pro tem. He's been in the Metro Council for 12 years, currently has held for the last 4 years the position of mayor pro tem. He would take over if the mayor was incapacitated in some way, but as a mayor pro tem, he really is just like another council person. So we've talked about that we have a serious crime problem. We know who is in the position of power to address this. So what's the plan? The mayor has indicated, I've talked to the mayor, I've done shows with the mayor, and he has indicated that because of the limited resources that is available to our government, because of the depressed economy, the monies don't exist to do a whole lot more than what's been done. What the mayor's indicated, he wants to fund a couple of academies to increase, hopefully, the police forces, and he's also indicated, that most crime law enforcement professionals do not believe that will necessarily reduce crime, that it requires community involvement, and he intends on focusing on that. Here's what the mayor said.
The law enforcement monies will have to come, frankly, from existing revenues, which because of the downturn in the economy last year was bad. We hope to put together at least 1 or 2 academies this year. But most law enforcement professionals will tell you that just by having more people on the streets does not guarantee a reduction in crime. There are a lot of other components that you have to put in place. The community has to get involved quite a bit. I want the ministers and those, because a lot of these crimes are happening in North Baton Rouge, is to begin to dissect the community and work in strategic groups on various blocks and streets and those things, become each other's eyes and ears.
So that was the mayor's plan. But our law enforcement officials tell us, frankly, they need something else. Here's what they say.
I think that we would be embarrassed if the people knew how many officers and deputies were working per shift, per location. You'd be scared.
We had this tremendous increase in population, but the sheriff's office didn't have a tremendous increase in resources.
We have got to stay up with that attrition rate.
So we're treading water.
We're just treading water right now.
So you still need 200.
I still need 200.
When you look at other cities and compare other cities and jurisdictions, when they ask how many officers we have and how many DAs, it's kind of a joke. And you have how many murders, and that's all that you have.
At some point, the resources, the real resources, are going to have to be directed to the sheriff, to Baton Rouge City, and to the DA's office for us to really be able to be as effective as you want us to be and that we want to be.
This whole Baton Rouge community needs to come together as one to fight this problem.
It's priorities. It's where does Baton Rouge want to be priority-wise? Do we think we have enough money that we can reprioritize where we're spending our money and spend it on law enforcement?
Not only do our law enforcement chiefs say that we need hundreds of more police officers and deputies on the street right now, but they also say we need to open our downtown jail immediately.
If Baton Rouge needs anything right now, it needs a downtown jail.
When we shut down that downtown jail, it was a very detrimental effect. It was a bad message to the men and women in law enforcement who were out there trying to enforce laws. It was a bad message to the victim of crimes, and it was a terrible message to send to the perpetrator. If you commit a misdemeanor crime, nothing's going to happen to you. That's why we're sitting on all these thousands and thousands of warrants that people get a misdemeanor summons and they tear it up and they don't go to court.
Our law enforcement chiefs have indicated with the downtown jail open, this is the difference.
We take misdemeanor offenders, we don't give them summonses. We bring them to
in
jail.
jail.
If we have a conflict between two individuals, we bring them to jail.
So there's a consequence.
Exactly.
So to summarize, does East Baton Rouge Parish and the city of Baton Rouge have a crime problem? Absolutely. Do we have people in positions of power that can tackle this issue and reduce crime? Absolutely. Do we have a plan that's working? It doesn't seem that way. And what our law enforcement professionals tell us we need immediately is a jail opened up downtown. We need more boots on the ground, and we need the community to become involved. Thank you.